Hey everyone, it's Mark here again, and this is a second video about how to compare and analyze pie charts on the IELTS Academic Task 1. This video is going to help you get your grammar, vocabulary, task achievement, and cohesion all done. So please make sure you watch till the end. At the end, I'll give you some tips on grammar especially, but you will see them. So make sure you watch all of it. You need all four of these to get that 7 or higher. All right, so we'll start with that. Now, yes, those 4 things we'll talk about. So please stay till the end. As you can see here, we've got a lot of pie charts. So let's take a look. The pie charts below show units of electricity production by fuel source in Australia and France in 1980 and 2000. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Remember, make comparisons where relevant. That means you want to point out similarities and possibly differences between the two. Now, the first thing I will recommend is take 5 minutes to analyze this, especially the pie charts. They can be very tricky, so you really want to pay attention to these ones. All right, there's a lot of little things that can make a big difference in your task and what you write. So right now, please take 5 minutes, pause it, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things you will have noticed. Now, first of all, a very important thing to look at is be careful to notice the unit increase in each country. So we've got 1980 here in both Australia and France. In Australia, they were producing 100 units and France 90, but in 2000, it increased to 170 and 180. That's really important, so pay attention to that because that's going to impact your final answer. And of course, pay attention. This is not a percentage. These are the units. All right, so you got 50 units here, 20 units here. This one's tricky because it's 100 units, but these are units, not percentages. So just a little thing to be careful of. And of course, this is clearly not a percentage. It's also going to have an impact because you can see these two look like they're quite similar, all right? So they're producing the same percentage of the energy, but this one's increased a lot. It's almost doubled, all right? So what is this one? Hydropower has almost doubled its production, but overall, it provides the same amount. So that's why you want to take 5 minutes to look at these, okay? So just a little piece of advice there. And it's kind of similar here, right? 20 units for coal, 25 units. So these two increase, all right, but they're a smaller, this one increases, but overall it's less. Same here. This one stays the same, but it looks like less. So they haven't decreased. All right, now, first of all, notice this. Both Australia and France increase. Australia goes from 100 to 170, nearly doubling, and France does in fact double its production from 90 units to 180. So, in 1980, Australia produces more energy than France, but in 2000, France produces more than Australia. Again, small differences which can make a big difference in your score. Also, Australia changes. It becomes a major coal user. It starts as a major coal user, but then it becomes a major coal user. The production more than doubles, and most of its energy here is from coal, whereas France has gone nuclear. They've gone from 15 units and a very small portion to 126 and a major portion. And of course, remember, no similarity is worth mentioning. Australia does not use nuclear, so that's important too. So there you go. Australia goes from a major coal user, and in 2000, it's a major coal user. In 1980, France is a major coal natural gas user, but in 2000, it's a major nuclear user, and natural gas has, as you can see, almost disappeared. All right, so it's gone from a pretty major user of natural gas to a very small user. Okay, so again, take the time to look at these things. You don't need to just tell me the numbers. You need to tell me, the importance of them. Nuclear goes from 15 to 126. That's pretty important. Natural gas goes from 25 down to 2. That's a major change as well. So there's a lot of data here. This task will probably be more than 150 words. All right, so why don't we take a look at a sample? Okay, so we'll start over here. First sentence, get it done quickly. All right, I'm not even going to talk about it. Just quickly show it. Then, overall, both countries notably increased their energy production. Good. 100 to 170, 90 to 180. You don't need the data yet. This is your overall. You must have this. And, here we go, changed from initially having diverse sources of power. So, pretty diverse. You went from 50, 20, 20, 10, 50, 50. Here you've got very diverse to relying predominantly on coal for Australia and nuclear for France. All right. So again, they've gone majorly coal, majorly nuclear. All right. So yes, that's quite a big overall, but the pie charts are often like that. So do pay attention to that. Now I start with 1980. In 1980, that's going to be my first paragraph, these two countries. In 1980, both countries relied on coal for a lot of their energy production. Clear topic sentence. I'm talking about coal. And 1980. At this time, Australia produced 100 units of energy to France's 90. I don't mention the diversity at this point. I've already mentioned it. It would just be repetitive. So I get into detail about the details. Then we go trend and data. All right, so we've got the macro trend. They generally use coal. Australia produces more. All right, that's the macro trend. That's the big picture. If you're explaining it in one sentence, that's it. Then, coal was Australia's main source. Trend. Data. Accounting for 50 units of its energy production. This is a very important grammar structure that you need to get a 7. All right, so we'll talk about that at the end. This, meaning all of this, was followed by hydropower and natural gas. Okay, good. Trend, both of which, nice connector, both of which produced 20 units. Okay, good. Trend, data. Oil was the least used source of energy. Trend, accounting for 10 units. Data. All right. Please remember, you don't just want to say coal was 50, and then hydro was 20, and then natural gas was 20, and oil was 10. It cannot be mechanical. That's going to make you get a really low, well, not low, but not the 7 that you want. So remember, show the trend, support it with the data. France, however, had a more diversified range of sources. Okay, this is really good because, one, I'm making a little comparison. I'm making the comparison between, coal is the main source, but France, however, was more diversified. All right? So first of all, a lot of times people don't remember to put in that comparison. All right? France was more diversified. If you take the 5 minutes to practice analysis, you will become very good at this. All right? But you have to practice. Coal and natural gas together made up 50 units of energy produced. So I'm running out of time here, so I've got the trend and data in one sentence. This was followed by oil and nuclear power, good trend, at data, 20 units and 15 respectively. Hydropower was a mere, there's a nice vocab word for you, a small 5 units, far lower than that in Australia. So again, hydro is pretty substantial here. but it's almost nothing here in France. So again, nice comparison. Far lower than in Australia. That is hydro. Then we move on to 2000. Now here's the important thing for grammar. You say by 2000, both countries had changed. All right, past perfect. Okay, so here's my paragraph topic. Both countries in 2000 and it's changed. All right, so at this paragraph, I know everything that I'm going to say. All right, everything is going to talk about the changes, and I've made that clear. And look at this, past perfect. All right, remember, by, had, not in, but by. If you have by here, use had here. This demonstrates higher awareness of grammar structures. And remember, past participle, ed on regular verbs. Australia's consumption nearly doubled, producing 170 units annually. All right, so I've got the trend here. Now I'm hurrying up because I only have so much time. 75% of this energy data came from coal. All right, so 75 came from coal. Now the reason I'm doing it quickly is because I want to compare. 50% higher than its level in 1980. That means which is. I'll add that in there just so you know. All right, you don't need that, but it's good to have it in there or to be aware that that's what's happening. But for efficiency, let's take that out. Hydro had nearly doubled. So be careful. It's 20, now it's 36. So we say that nearly doubled, accounting for just under a quarter of energy produced. All right, so add a little more information there. Oil and natural gas use dropped to negligible levels. There's a nice word, I've used that before. It means small and not worth talking about. All right? So I've talked about these two. I don't need the details here. It's really not worth mentioning. Then France's consumption doubled as well, reaching 180 units. Okay, so overall, then to make the point that here it's 180 and here it's 170, which has changed. So remember, 100 to 90, so Australia was bigger than France, but now France is bigger than Australia. So I wrote, it had surpassed Australia's production. Okay, done. Oops, and now let's avoid having two semicolons there. It had surpassed Australia's production. So again, I'm still using the past perfect here on occasion, right? Because it's showing that I've talked about by, and I'm making a comparison. So from 1980 to 2000, it had surpassed. Remember, this is in the past, so we can use it. If it's using the future or today, you wouldn't use this. Okay, so again, 2000. However, nuclear power, now here I've decided to add in which Australia does not use to make the comparison. Just a brief little point. Nuclear power had become the primary source of energy, trend, accounting for nearly 3/4 of the electricity produced. Data. All right, so 3/4. It also made a massive jump from 15 units to 126. More data. Then, quickly, coal and oil produced roughly the same amount of energy. However, they count for less than the overall amount. That should be less of the overall amount. Okay, so I've simply, I'm avoiding too much data here. It's not necessary. I've simply made the point they produce the same amount of energy. So again, 25-25 is pretty similar, so we'll just say they produce roughly the same amount of energy. However, it looks smaller because we're producing more energy. So that's why it's so important to do that 5-minute analysis at the beginning. That's going to help you get the overall task achievement score you want. Hydro and natural gas provide, let's just change that. Their production decreased, making up very little of the overall amount. All right, so again, I'm not going to go into detail. 2 is not worth mentioning. Wow, that is a big task 1. All right. So, take your time and look over it. It's something you have to be very careful with, okay? You want to get all that information and try to get it in there. So expect in your pie charts to have a longer task. It's going to be more than 150 words easily. And practice these ones, all right? Really practice them. Take the 5 minutes. If you're practicing, take 10 minutes and analyze if this is difficult. I know you want to go to school and I know you want to get that score. So you have to practice, you guys, please. All right. Now, just to review some things here. We've looked at some key grammar points. First of all, the participle clause. Coal was Australia's main source, which accounted for. So we just shorten that to accounting for. And it's beautiful for doing trend data, which you need to do. Here again, hydropower was a mere 5 units, which is far lower than in Australia. So I just make that far lower than in Australia. Australia's consumption nearly doubled, producing 170 annually. Okay, so again, which produces becomes producing. And finally here, the same thing, production decreased, making up very little of the overall amount. Yes, you can have a phrasal verb in your task 1. It's not a problem. Finally, past perfect, this is good. By 2000, both countries had changed substantially. So please remember, if it's in the past and there's a change between 1980 and 2000, it had changed. But you need to have by, all right? And then you establish that over here, by 2000, okay? So now the whole paragraph, you can freely use it as long as you're talking about 2000. Hydro had nearly doubled, and nuclear power had become the primary source of energy. Wow, you guys, this is a long one, so I'm not going to have too many more notes here. Please check out the other videos, and they'll have lots of information. So please remember, take 5 minutes to analyze when you're practicing, maybe even 10 minutes, and then take an extra 20 minutes to do the writing. Then practice, practice, practice. Good luck, you guys. I hope you get your 7 and 8 or 9 if that's what you're looking for, and good luck.